Hello, hello, Prez here. And today we're just going to have a little bit of a chat and do a video for a storytime slash tournament report from my time at Pro Tour Singapore. I normally do written reports for tournament reports, but this time I just thought let's try something different, get into the habit of recording more long form videos. So before the tournament, my experience did not start perfectly, where my flight got delayed and then delayed again and finally got cancelled. And it was due to fog. So, it's weather. It's not really in the airline's control, but still not a good feeling, especially when you have a connecting flight. But luckily, there was a direct flight available from my city that I got rebooked on. And the only downside was having four screaming babies, where I had one directly on my left, one directly on my right, one behind me on the left, and one behind me on the right. So they were just perfectly placed to keep setting each other off. And luckily, it was a flight during the day, so I didn't miss any sleep. But I'm pretty sure that's bordering on some sort of mental torture. Regardless, as you can see, I had some good leg room. Leg room is OP. Um, and yeah, apart from that, got to Singapore without any issues. I've been to Singapore before, but I haven't left the airport. The last time I went there was just a 14-hour transit and was just absolutely knackered. Did not leave the airport the entire time, just tried to nap. For the first few days, we're kind of just wandering. We had a nice little forest outside our accommodation. So, we had places to walk. We were really lucky. There wasn't any rain basically the entire time we were there. It only rained once. Um, and I mean, yeah, we just had a food market close by, and we had heard that hawker stalls were great. It turns out hawker stalls are great. Food markets are very, very good food. So I'm vegetarian, and the times I've been in Singapore before, I have struggled a little bit. But it could just be a skill issue. I might not be looking in the right place. And it turns out that everything was taken care of this time. We had Hong Yi vegetarian food, which was a stall at our local food market, and it was just packed with everything you could ever want. And basically, the very first time we went there, I was like, "Look, you're going to be seeing us a lot for the next week because this is already our safe place to get food. So cheap. I basically ate better than I did than I do when I'm at home. Having protein every single meal, multiple sources, full plates, fresh juice every meal, and still costing less than it would to feed myself in England. Also, a decent amount of wildlife. We had chickens, roosters, and hens that were just on the route. So, most days that we walk to breakfast, we just go, oh, yeah, that's a chicken, rooster. Nice. We saw some frogs making well, we didn't see them, but we heard them just making the weirdest calls constantly while we were walking home one night. But either way, like Singapore was great. Just having a really, really nice time wandering around. So much verticality in basically everywhere. It's a really, really well developed city. Before the tournament, we headed over to the venue on Thursday and I just got to do all the admin stuff before the event starts, watch the keynote, all that good stuff. You'll see from my notes that I apparently really liked the ceilings. And this cool ceiling number one here with the flower setups, I spent a lot of time during the draft just staring up at that and looking at all the different flowers that had not blemishes, but had, broken and been repaired. But I was just looking up because you're not allowed to look anywhere else during a draft, at least during a competitive one. I just spent a lot of time trying to pick out all of the flowers that weren't like the other. But yeah, ceilings were cool. The venue itself was, a couple of floors underground, which helped a lot. There was free Wi-Fi. Had to sign into it constantly, but free Wi-Fi is free. Aircon was good. Basically, never overheated while in the venue, but basically, upon landing in Singapore, I just resigned myself to being vaguely damp for the entire week. Oof, it was not great. Got to see a bunch of people, like the social parts of these events are always amazing as well. Like, part of playing Flesh and Blood is that you just interact with people all over the world, and a lot of times that's only online. So, getting to one of these big events, it's always an opportunity to meet some of these people that I've been chatting to. So, I got to catch with who did I meet for the first time? I mean, I met a lot of the Prisms. I met Murph and Andrew Cook. I met Margin Bay for the first time. That was nice. Um, Yeah, it's always great to meet people, especially people for the first time. And it means that every single time you go back to these one of these events, you've just got a longer list of people you need to say hello to. Keynote was fun. Otherwise, just jamming some games the night before, trying to figure out what the hell we play at the Pro Tour. Because, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, I wasn't sure. If you had asked me, quite literally until Thursday, about, mid-afternoon, early evening, I was registering Slippy. I had the 80 on me. It's the best deck for a reason, right? Like, I had enough reps to access the power floor, and the power floor, it's actually just very, very high. It didn't feel too difficult to get the deck running at a point where it's like, "Oh, yeah, this is actually a real consideration." Um, and the reason I didn't want to bring Prism, despite being a specialist, is I mean the word I've used there is volatility. Really don't like volatility. Like my entire Prism arc has been trying to figure out ways to stop your opponent from interacting with your game plan, right? That's what the Tunic loop list was all about. It's what the new Vestige loop setups are about. It's basically what Spectre is about. You could argue it's baked into the class at this point, unfortunately, but what can you do? Um, and that means that volatility is really, really bad. And basically, every single time I tested, Syndra, Slippy, those matchups in particular, even Gravy a little bit, it just felt like, oh, you've got a non zero number of poppers in your deck. You force me into presenting heralds, and if you find the poppers at the right time, there just isn't much I can do to win the game. I don't like that. That's why I wasn't planning on registering Prism. And we've been talking a lot about Fab in the few days before the tournament, of course. And nothing was really clicking until I thought about Lost in Thought, which is a card I have considered in previous metas, but it was never quite good enough. And I thought about it specifically for Syndra. I felt that Syndra was a favored matchup if you won the die roll and got to go second, and a bit more coin flippy, slightly unfavored. You lost the die roll and had to go first. And that was basically just because all it takes is Syndra drawing one of their 3 7 power poppers in their deck. And they just get so much tempo over you that it can be very, very difficult to come back, especially without an Arclight Center. Um, so I was thinking about Lost in Thought specifically to target the Syndra matchup when you have to go first. And the hand states that I was targeting were if they have a single starter and take 3 damage out of their hand, and then they have to pitch a card to dagger for a starter, which is another -2 normally. And both of those cards can be a -3 and -4 respectively. So, like, if you find them on a single starter, you're taking 5 to 7 damage out of their turn. That's pretty good. A single finisher, if you ever catch them on a single finisher, that's like your lava bursts, your breaking points. Yeah, that's 5 value. It can be up to 7 if they're on Art of the Dragonfire, but that's fallen off a little bit. Can be Snatch. Getting a Snatch is really good. Just taking away the card draw as a chain ender, which, like, you are giving them the card anyway through a ponder, but I started to think about how Lost in Thought into Syndra was like you're giving them the Mask of Momentum trigger, but you're giving that to them anyway, and they don't get to play the card on their turn, which is actually the key. This card was just about keeping them off balance, reducing their damage output enough, and giving you perfect information to play into their hand states. Additionally, if you ever hit one of their poppers, you just win the game on the spot. You take what's meant to be a 7 value flip for them and turn it into a basically 7 value flip for you. And that's kind of insane. I tested it for, 4 or 5 games and just went, oh, every single time I've resolved this, it has been backbreaking. This is good. This is really, really good. And then I thought about it more and I was like, oh, yeah, this actually has some really good potential across the meta. Like the top deck is Slippy, the attack react based assassin. It's pretty good. Gravy is really highly synergistic with a relatively low number of poppers. But like if you can take a Conqueror or a Golden Tipple, you're really, really happy into Gravy. Even in the mirror, it can be quite good. Basically, there's a pretty high critical mass of decks that are just trying to run like attack action based synergy at the moment. And there aren't many decks that it is actively bad into. So after testing it and thinking about it, I was like, yes, okay. Let's put this card that we've tested for 24 hours or less than, about 6 hours into our Pro Tour deck. See what happens. And that's the only reason it was a 2 of in the Pro Tour. After some more testing, it's definitely a 3. It's just that I did not have the time to do enough testing of this card. I thought it was good. I did not know how good it was. And I just didn't want to jam a new, relatively untested card as a 3 of into my Pro Tour deck, you know? Regardless, let's play Prism. Lock in the deck list, lock in our 2 Lost in Thoughts. How does the tournament itself go? Well, round 1, find an Aussie, Damien Moss. Slippy, I won the die roll, and then just everything went their way. We had a series of 4 or 5 turns in a row where I took lines that called out, you don't have a D react here, they have a D react. You don't have double D react here, they have double D react. You don't have popper into D react, they had popper into D react, etc., etc. Couple that with a brick out of me. I think it just had a single herald in it that I actually had to block with. And yeah, it can happen. Any game of Flesh and Blood is losable. That's a very, very important lesson to learn. Round 2 was another Aussie, which is weird. I fly all the way to Singapore and play a couple of Aussies in the first 2 rounds, but it's always nice. There's always some good banter with Aussies. Verdance, I really enjoy that matchup. The only downside was I Arsenal to Soul Shield after seeing like 4 cards out of their deck, and then they just didn't attack me and played a whole bunch of arcane damage effects turn after turn after turn. And I was starting to get worried. Oh no, do I need this Arsenal? Have I screwed myself? They eventually threw physical damage at me and I could clear it, but it was a little bit touch and go for a minute there. We play, a normal game of Flesh and Blood. The arcane version, I think, is slightly worse into Prism, and then Library hit the board, and we stopped playing Flesh and Blood. Yeah, I really like the Verdance matchup. It's quite interesting, but the arcane damage builds do seem a little bit softer to Prism. Round 3, we got Braulio Mora on Vincent. Sorry if I get the pronunciation wrong. Lit did huge work here, Lit being Lost in Thought, where I looked at their hand and got to take one of the 3 7 power poppers in Vincent's deck. And not only does it buy a huge amount of tempo on the turn you play it, it also meant that later in the game, when we're in the very few last turn cycles, it allowed me to take lines with Victoria, Archangel of Triumph, and Herald of Erudition to guarantee that they could not have a popper. Because I know that I've seen 2 of the 7s, and I put the 3rd to the bottom with Lit, and we're not at your pitch stack yet. So what are you going to do about it? I did get to turn skip them a couple of times, one with Herald of Judgment and another with Figment of Judgment, but we were in the end game. They were kind of in the blender. They were having to block me out, and every time I drew Lost in Thought, it just did huge work. Round 4, William Bradshaw on Riptide. I've made a note here, I played a little loose. I needed to be patient, right? I had my combo ready. I just needed to be patient and get one more Figment out of the deck. I didn't, so it wasn't a clean win, but I did manage to piece it together off merciful pings and make the W. Round 5, we hit a Kiwi, another Kiwi, one of our former national champs, Dr. Dan Mackay. He was on Slippy, where I won the die roll, got to go second, and then just had some good turns. And then he drew a Codex, attack, react, attack hand. And he has a card in Arsenal, but I play Lit and look at that hand and go, that's a single attack. If that's an attack react in your Arsenal, this is a brick. So we take the attack. I mean, it's the only legal target. And attack him, and he slams Crown of Providence in front of my attack and cycles a card. It's probably going to be one of the codexes. I actually drew a second Lost in Thought off of Soraya that turn and thought, I probably should play this, but I'm not sure about it. I didn't play it. Turns out it was definitely wrong. Playing 2 Lits in one turn, so nice, especially into Slippy. So I bricked his hand first, he fixed it with Crown of Providence, and I should have played the second Lit. So coming out of the first round of CC, I'm sitting at 4-1. I'm feeling pretty good, both about the list, about Lit. I've done a lot of prep for High Seas draft, and feeling really good. Still live at top 8, still towards the top end of the table. Just simply lose the first round and submarine your way through. Our first draft, I mean, the photo's a little bit blurry, but it's organized by 2 blocks on the right and then 3 blocks on the left. The only asterisk is that Sirens in the yellow slot. We've got a red Fiddler's Green as a 4 block card, but this deck was better than it had any right to be, right? Like, I was one of 4 Marlin. I felt like I was one of 2, where I had a full set of Blade Break equipment, 23 block 3s, a red Fiddler's Green, right? Like, this deck is very, very strong. Um, the first round, just played against another Marlin, fatigued. It just straight fatigued them out. My deck had more value in it than theirs. And then I got an actual factual draw against Gravy in round 2, where, I think about that game now and I'm just, I mean, all of these games, I'm thinking, surely there's something I could have done differently. Or should I have attacked an ally earlier? Should I have sent damage face earlier? But we got to an end game state where Gravy just had Chowders. So I had to kill them. Chowder was not needing to have, you don't have to pay resources to either attack with Chowder or use the ability. But every single turn that Chowder sits in play, it's just generating value. I had a, single red salvage shot in my deck. So that was my way to kill fatigue matchups. And I just ended up being, 1 or 2 life off one card where I could have got that salvage shot into one of the Chowders and then used it. And after pitching the last like 4 cards in my deck, to kill the second. So unfortunate, but it happens. What can you do? And then in the third round, it was against a Puffin, and I just drew all 6 of those 2 blocks in 2 hands back to back. One of them was alongside Sirens of Safe Harbor, and these 2 turns lined up with Puffin's 2 Goldwing Turbine turns, 1 red, 1 yellow. So they had big turns into my hands that blocked for 8, and then 9 in my 23 3-block deck. It happens. What can you do? Incredibly disappointing, going to 5, 2, and 1. So we cannot lose again, basically, until maybe the very final round. That's okay. We've done the prep. We're confident in CC. Draft is going to be the hard part. So go home, get some good food, get some good sleep as well. Sleep very, very important for these tournaments, and then just come back ready to go at it again tomorrow. Where the second draft just opened cog in the machine. Pick one, pack one, and went, oh, that's a 3-0 card. That card can definitely 3-0. So we force Puffin and then go, yep, let's just draft a really low to the ground aggressive deck. It's definitely a Spitfire deck. The only like real downside is this Captain's card. I would have loved a Buccaneer Blade Break one for this gain of resource equipment, but can't have everything. Not my favorite Mutiny, but I also really don't love the Teeth of the Cogs, the galvanized 2-block attacks. But this is the deck they are good in. Gold Hunter Light Sail, really, really good in this deck. You're not trying to block, you're trying to race. Your opponent having gold is really good for you. And just with a whole bunch of ways to generate my own cogs, I was not worried. And this deck was really good. It's just that the first round, cog was literally the 30th card in my deck on when I presented. That first game was still very close. It was against Gravy. I had a line to force them into blocking, and none of their allies could attack for free. So as long as I keep stripping their hand and taking away their ability to attack with allies, I can definitely fatigue them, or kill them before they fatigue, but get them stuck in the blender of blocking with the entire hand every turn. And the one turn, the last turn basically, that they had an opportunity to draw this, they drew red fiddlers, put it in the graveyard off a gravy trigger, and won the game on 3 life. So that, again, incredibly disappointing. At X and 4 now, so I just have to win out. I want to cash, and I can't top 8. But we get to the second round and match into Oliver Berry, making our second New Zealand national champ in this tournament. Ollie was in a similar position as me. He had to win out. He did not, unfortunately. Cog in the Machine is an insane card. You just have to draw it. And we got the classic little team kill photo. The third game was over very, very quickly. I just had a bunch of above rate turns. I had Cog in the Machine in those turns. Yeah, the deck is very good. I was happy with both of the decks I drafted. I do actually think the Marlin one would have been more consistent than this, but Cog in the Machine is just so far above the curve that this deck was also insane. It's very unfortunate that it just didn't come together in the first round, but that's flesh and blood. Regardless, we're heading into CC. Round 12, played against Esmond Hung on Dio, and before the Pro Tour had started for the day, I'd caught up with some Prism friends that were playing in the calling, and I basically said to them, "Look, this card, Lost in Thought, this is great. Play 3 copies of this card. I need to know how it goes. I want more data. Be my guinea pigs." So I had 2 people in the calling playing with 3 copies of Lost in Thought. And sitting down in this round, we're having some chats before the game. Esmond's really, really nice guy. Shout out to him. And before the game, we're talking. He's just saying, "Oh, Prism. Oh yeah, I heard about some Prism tech from a friend of mine in the calling, also on Dio." And we just had the little conversation where I had to go, "Oh yeah, that's mine." So you know what it is? Yes. Played it out. Lost in Thought did do some work. They did get a max velocity off on a 25 damage turn, but it just wasn't enough. Lost in Thought strips their hand, clears the way of poppers, gets rid of their block value, stops them boosting. Just even taking a single boost card can often be the difference between them being able to play max velocity or not. Yeah, and then your math is just better. Round 13 on Gravy, I did not make the same mistake where drew the second lit off of Soraya and played it, and actually just took both of the golden tipples in their hand. They had red tipple, blue tipple, red saltwater swell, and a sawbones. So I basically just got to take 2 of the 3 attacks in their hand, stop them from discarding the ally and generating gold for value, and yeah, turn their turn into exactly red swell and pass. So I flipped Soraya on the turn I played those Lost in Thoughts, and they couldn't clear it. They'd also shown me all 3 Call to the Graves, either through pitching or blocking, and they had pitched their back alley break line, so I just hadn't seen Arclights yet. I did see them because Soraya drawing 2 extra cards a turn is pretty good, and just got to play Arclight Sentinel for a couple of turns in a row, close out the game. Round 14. Yeah. Whew. This one, I thought this one was where it was going to end, where won the die roll, went second, drew literally 0 block, and you should have seen the look on Mirko's face, Mirko Dolce. Turn 0, he plays buff, Kiss of Death for 6 go again, and then I look him dead in the eyes and declare, "No blocks." Takes 6 there, takes 1 more off the on hit, and then follows up with a Leave No Witnesses. I put Footsteps in front of it, take 3. He flicks the kiss at me to take another 2. So I've taken 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on turn 0, and I did all that just to play a Figment of War and make a courage token. I have a little game I like to play, which is to answer the question of how much life would Prism pay to start the game with a Genesis in play. And I mean, the answer is definitely in the double digits, but 12 to make a courage token. It's not quite it. Regardless, I quite literally skipped a turn in the mid game on a single attack hand that I just looked at with Lost in Thought, and otherwise I just played around pop as well. They spent a lot of resources blocking, which prevents them from being able to kill me, and I somehow got them on the path to fatigue, and was able to win the game after taking 12 and 0. Absolutely wild game. Um, and then, yeah, closing out the day with a Florian matchup. At this point, we were both locked for top 32. I- The outcome of this match wouldn't change the placing, which is nice, but we're still playing for ELO and just for the funs. And yeah, I really like the Florian matchup. It's like interesting is the word I use to describe it, just because they can interact with both of your game plans so well that can't really present either. You have to can't quite present just heralds. They've got a lot of poppers, they've got a lot of D-reacts, they've got a lot of armor, a lot of disruption, and really good value, and they can just grind you out as kind of playing their game. But then they've also got arcane damage and sometimes channel the Millennium Tree, which breaks through your loot. So what do you do? And I mean, the answer for me is that your win condition changes basically every single game. Merciful is probably the best card in the matchup outside of exactly Library. It's just, yeah, it's such an interesting matchup as a result. You kind of have to play tempo with auras and just try to pass every single turn with multiple must deal with permanents in play. And I mean, that's what I did. We sat down and Jude lamented a little bit about how they couldn't get their good matchups day one. I just, had a little chuckle and said, "Oh, is it a good matchup?" So I did the thing, played a lot of tempo, passed every single turn with multiple permanents in play that just require an answer, and they couldn't answer them. So Merciful got me excess soul and got a lot of chip damage in. Then I got to the end state where I had a passing Mirage in play, and then I had Soraya flipped, and I used that along with a Genesis in play to flip Avalon, and then start using Avalon to buy Herald of Erudition back to my deck, because passing Mirage is never the target. So I think for 3 turns in a row, I had played 2 of my 3 Herald of Eruditions. I drew the third, played it, it got blocked out, took the last bit of his armor, goes to the grave. Cool. Avalon, attack, banish a card, put a Herald of Erudition on top. You've got no armor left, no arsenal. I have a Passing Mirage in play. Can't kill the Passing Mirage because there's still a Genesis and an Avalon and a Soraya in play. Well, Soraya might have been gone at that point, but you know, Angel and multiple auras and shields, the arcane damage isn't consistent. And I think I played a total of 7 Herald of Eruditions in that game, of which 4 didn't have Phantasm. Or I had to buy one of those back a second time after they got an Arsenal one turn and they got to put a D-React in. Yeah, 7 Herald of Eruditions in one game, most of them without Phantasm. It was interesting. Closed the game out by putting counters on Angels with Bologna, which is maybe my favorite win condition that the deck has access to. But regardless, we ended 11-3-1, 11-4, but I like to feel better about myself. And I was the top ranking Kiwi, top ranking Prism at 19th. So, you know, we actually decided for once to go out and sit down at a restaurant and get some real dinner. So we found this Indian place. And, you know, I got booked us a grab there, the local Uber variant, and started walking through this industrial like business complex, which was just completely shut down. You know, like this is pretty late on a Sunday night. It was just completely dead. Most of the lights were off. All the doors were locked. It was weird. You know, I wasn't expecting it, but at some point I was like, "Oh, mate, are we meant to be here? Like, is this place open? Should we be here?" But this is where Maps says the restaurant is, so we're just gonna keep going in the direction and hope it works out. And then we turn the corner and, yeah, found the restaurant, find this table, and there's a bunch of people inside listening to music, dancing, having a great time. Turns out it was the local Labour Party, I think. I didn't grab a photo of them, but regardless, took some photos of us at dinner. We all thought, you know, there was a lot of joy in this photo. It was a really, really good week traveling with these guys. That's Thomas Bailey Galbraith, Oliver Berry, and Ben Dodd. It's just such a cool week. Really, really awesome result. I slept in the next day because I didn't want to run my body into the ground for a third day in the row just to play some Living Legend in the Battle Hardened. Especially, oh gosh, we actually got back to the venue and I just got some cards out and looked at them. I cannot put a list together right now. I just do not have the mental energy. I just want to go to sleep. Screw it, we're skipping the Battle Hardened. We went into the venue regardless and just, you know, got to sleep in. Ben also skips, so we slept in, went and got some, you know, good food when we were ready to leave, and then head to the venue and just played some pickup games because I was still enjoying Flesh and Blood. Yeah, which, you know, that doesn't always happen, so that was nice. Spend another day kind of just existing, recovering from the weekend, catching up on sleep, and head home. You know, there were babies on the last flight, but they weren't constantly screaming. And yeah, that's the story of my first Pro Tour. I say it's my first major. I went to the first Worlds, but had to drop day one after realizing somewhere around round 5 that I had COVID or that I just wasn't feeling good and went back to the accommodation, take a test. Oh no, I have COVID. That's not ideal. So this is basically my first major. Really excited to have come 19th. So happy with the placing. Yeah, so that's the story of my first major. I did go to the first Worlds, so, you know, this being the first major is a bit of a technicality, but I had to drop day 1 at Worlds after realizing somewhere around round 5 that I was feeling terrible. To leave the venue, go back to accommodation, get into bed, take a test, and find out I have COVID. So I don't really count Worlds as the first major, which means, you know, really happy with this result. That's a tournament report. I hope you enjoyed, and tune in for the next one.